Okay, so once again, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to share my screen now, and I hope that all of you can hear my voice. Okay, so we're right here. Okay, so I think I must say, yeah, okay, sorry about that. Okay, so before I start, do any of you want to volunteer reading the first paragraph today? Okay, you want to volunteer? Okay, Nayaka, you can read this first paragraph here, the one that
Okay,
I highlighted.
okay. So he sat down on the ground betwixt me and Tom. He leaned his back up against a tree and stretched his legs out till one of the most touched on my mind. My nose began to itch. It itched till the tears come into my eyes, but I didn't scratch. Then it began to itch on the inside. On the inside. Next, I got to itching underneath. I didn't know how I was going to sit still. This miserableness went on as much as 6 or 7 minutes, but it seemed a sight longer than that. I was itching in 11 different places now. I reckon I reckoned I could tell it more a minute longer, but I set my teeth hard and got ready to try. Just then Jim began to breathe heavy. Next he began to snore. And then I was pretty uncomfortable again.
Okay, thank you, Nayaka, for reading. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to start analyzing the sentences one by one. Right. Okay, so after I analyze the sentence one by one, I'm also going to tell you the grammar as well as the vocabulary as well, right? And in the end, after analyzing, I will ask one of you to um let's like you can either like comment about what have you learned from the passage as well as or you can just summarize the paragraph. Okay, so yeah, it's just like that. Okay. Um, Here we have the first line. So when you're analyzing a paragraph, we need to analyze them one by one, like per sentence. So he sat down on the ground betwixt me and Tom. All right. So I think I've said this way too often that the books in Huckleberry Finn Adventure, they like I mean the author usually use the word set instead of sit, like sat down. The author actually means sit down, as in like sitting down. Yeah, like sat in the past form, like the SAT instead of SET. So there's actually a really, I mean, yeah, it's really have a different meaning to it, but it does have the same pronunciation, like how we pronounce it the same, but it's different. So it's supposed to be okay. Can I actually edit this? I'm going to try editing this though. Okay, hold on. Let me do something to it. I'm pretty sure there's an editing review kind of thing here. Okay, I'm not sure why I couldn't edit this. Okay, this is kind of outside there. Right. Either way, I'm just going to send you the file probably after discussing everything. Right. So this is supposed to be sat here, SAT. And here we have archaic word. It means like a word that's usually used in Old English, right? Betwixt. Betwixt actually means between. So they're actually the same thing. They're synonyms of it. Betwixt and between. So take note of that. I can't write it down, but maybe after like a few paragraphs of a few lessons until my exams are over, I'm going to send you the file of like what vocabulary we have learned from the whole passage. Okay. So betwixt is between. So he sat down between me and Tom. So that's yeah. And yes, it's correct. It's me and Tom because we are talking about an object here. They act as an object here. And he right here acts as the subject. Okay. So he's refers to Jim, as we can tell from the previous paragraph if you follow, or you can read the text there's in the group chat. All right. So moving on to the next sentence here. He leaned his back up against the tree and stretched his legs out till one of them most touched one of mine. Okay, so it doesn't um okay, most of them like informal kind of English. I can't say that it is wrong though, it's just that it's yeah. So lean his back up is slightly redundant and he leaned his back up against a tree. We can actually just say he leaned against a tree, but it's not wrong. So I'm just going to pretend that it's not a mistake. It's really not. It's just that it's redundant, but it does add a little more context to it. So let's just keep it that way. And stretch his legs out till one of them most touch one of mine. All right, so we know that the word till right here, till is usually like the shortened form of until. It's supposed to say his legs out until one of them. It's not just till, it's until. Right. Most touch one of mine. So most right here is actually almost. So most right here is not a superlative kind of like word here, like the most how to say the most as you can say context, I'm not really sure. Like most beautiful, yeah, like that. It's not it's different. So almost right the most right here is actually kind of like one of the dialects they use. It's actually almost touch. Is the sentence phrase almost touch. Okay. So it's almost touch one of mine. My nose began to itch. So began is like actually okay, hold on. Let me think about it. My nose began to itch. Okay, so this is actually a wrong usage of past participle. It's supposed to use began as in so you know that began have actually three forms like begin, begun, began also. Okay. So BIGIN. So one of them use I and then A and then U. So the correct was supposed to use A. I could not edit the word. I'm sorry about that. I promise you that I will send the version. Not sure why I could not edit. It's all gray right there. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. So supposed to be began in the past form, not began. Okay, so that's one of that. It's still the tears come into my eyes. So once again, in like formal English writing, but if it's informal, then that's totally okay to just use still. It still means the same as until. It's not really a problem, but yeah, it's informal. And what else here? I think I spotted right here. So I'm just going to highlight this and hope that you pay attention to this. My nose, it's still the tears come into my eyes. So the word come right here, it's incorrect. It should supposed to be came into my eyes. Why? Because we're talking about something that occurs in the past. As you can see right here, it itch. As that is it itch, we added an ed at the end of the word itch. It means that we're talking about a past tense, something that occurs in the past, like itch. So therefore, the word come right here is supposed to be came. Since we're talking about the past, we need the sentence to be parallel to each other, meaning they're supposed to be balanced. We can't have one past tense and then another present and like then the future in a single sentence. No, we can, if the first word we have is a past tense, then the other following verb also has to be a past tense. So that's what it means. But I doesn't scratch. So doesn't is direct, like a kind of like dialect. It means dare not. So but I dare not scratch. It mean that he didn't dare to scratch this, to scratch the itch. So it's dare not. Okay. Then it began to itch on the inside. So once again, this began right here is supposed to be began. We're not using a past participle, we're just using a past form of it. Like there's actually, to short this, um back my elementary years, I used to learn English like the first form, second form, and third form. Let's just say the begun is actually the third form. I want to use the second form, which is using the A, which is begin. Begin to itch on the inside. Next, I got to itching underneath. Okay, so got to itching means the same as started itching, so it doesn't really matter, it's the same. Means began to itch, got to itching, yeah. Got to itching underneath. Means that he feel the itch underneath his skin. I didn't know how was I going to set still. Once again, set still is supposed to be sit still. Doesn't really mean much. The sentence is mostly correct since we are using, they're all parallel each other, so they're perfectly balanced. So I don't think I need to correct this one. Okay. Dismissableness. Okay, so I'm not really sure if this is wrong, but I think that the word dismissableness is kind of like unusual. It's not that standard, to be honest. But and though in like writings like this novel right here, it's not a problem. But in like if you were to write in a formal setting, like a formal kind of writing, you're not supposed to write miserableness. You just write misery, like this misery went on as much as 6 or 7 times. You do not write miserableness since it is a non-standard form. When you write a word that's non-standard form, it means that it is uncommon or unusual, and I don't think it's supposed to be like a good way to say that. Right. So you're supposed to just say misery. It's not a correct one. Went on as much as 6 or 7 minutes. So yeah, this is just a phrase, not really something that you're going to do. Okay, but this thing will fight longer than that. So aside longer is almost again, it's just a phrase. Um, aside longer means that something that occurs a lot longer. Aside longer, it means the same. It's just kind of like how the people phrase it, but it's same thing as a lot longer. It's kind of like I think most of the English used here are like old English phrases. Okay, so you all know that dismissibleness means something like misery. It means like extreme discomfort, something that is displeasing. So I think all of you know that. So yeah, aside longer, yes, a lot longer, or you can say like significantly longer, like longer than like Huckleberry expected. So what it means for like side longer. I was itching in 11 different places now. So was itching, yes, this is a past continuous tense. It means that something that occurs in the past is ongoing, but it occurs in the past. So like was itching. It's correct. Since yeah, it's describing the event of past. And if you're confused of what I explained, you can just feel free to ask me directly. You can just type in the chat box. Will be more than happy to explain to you again. Okay. Or you can just ask if there's actually something that I missed or like said it wrongly. Okay, so just let me know if you notice that. In 11 different places now, so now it means that it's emphasized. Okay, so this is a past tense, but why has the word now? So yeah, this is sort of like contradictory. We have the was here, which is a past, indicates something that occurs in the past, but why do we have a now right here? Okay, it's really contradictory, don't you think? Okay, so why? So we know that was itching is a past continuous tense. It means it is indeed, well, it's in the past, but it's continuing. But the timeline here, we're talking about the past. And here now, it means that then. So Huckleberry basically talks about an event that is occurring, that's currently happening, but in the past. Like, no, I don't think the word currently, okay, that is confusing. Okay, let me rephrase this again. So it means that something is ongoing in the past. So that's why you use the word now to emphasize the continuing situation, which is itching. So that what the word now means. It doesn't mean that the sentences are contradictory to each other. We have a past and then we have the now there. It's not that means that. So I reckon I couldn't stand it more a minute longer, but I set my teeth hard and got ready to try. So reckon here means to thought or to believe. I assume that most of you heard this phrase in TV or books. It's a pretty common word. Usually people use that in daily conversations. I reckon using it, I thought like I reckon something like this, or just like simply you believe that happening. So that's what reckon mean. Or you can say like a guess, a thought that's more likely a passing thought that you're unsure of. So that can be more like reckon. I will stay more a minute longer. So more, I'm not sure how you read that. Where is it? Mourned a minute longer. So mourned here is supposed to mean more than. It's like once again, it's a dialect kind of phrase, more than a minute longer. But I set my teeth hard and got ready to try. So set my teeth hard, it's a figurative phrase, and it means quenching my teeth. So that's what it means. So just a figurative phrase, like I'm not sure how you know quenching your teeth. Like when you like have this determined expression thing, yeah, it's quenching your teeth. Okay, just then Jim began to breathe heavy. Next he began to snore. And then I was pretty soon comfortable again. So began once again should be began since we're just talking about a passive tense, not like something it's like not talking about a perfect tense. I think it's a perfect tense when you should begun with the U instead of the A. Okay. So once again here, it's not breathe heavy, but breathe heavily. And why do we add the ly in the end, like heavily? Why? Since breathe, we know that breathe is a verb. When we're trying to explain, like to add an additional information to a verb, this is heavily right here in this case. We do not use a noun, so heavy is a noun. And heavily, usually most words that end with ly or like you read it by as ly, like something like beautifully, heavily, they're all adverbs. And adverb, I use an abbreviation just to make myself remember this, like an additional verb. Why? Because we're trying to describe a verb. We cannot do this. It's said breathe heavy. This is grammatically wrong. It's supposed to be like to breathe heavily, since heavily here is an adverb that acts as an additional information to the verb breathe right here. Okay, so that's what it means. Next, say began to snore. Okay, nothing to do there. So once again, like the began should be began. It's okay, I guess. What else? And then I was pretty soon comfortable again. Okay, so it's just like awkward phrasing, but other than that, it's okay. Pretty much correct. Okay, so do any of you wanted to give a feedback or comments about this paragraph? Or is there something that you just want to tell to the others about what you've learned about from this paragraph? Or you can just do like a little summary about the paragraph. Or you can just, yeah, you can type it in the chat box. You don't really have to open your mic to say it. Yeah. So do any of you wanted to share your thoughts about this or any comments? You can just type it in the chat box. I will give you a minute or two to do so. Okay, so none of you wanted to share thoughts. Okay, that's right, I guess. Okay, I'm just going to summarize this. Okay, I kind of understand it's kind of hard to like summarize this. I mean, like to make a summary solely on this paragraph, it's doesn't really make sense unless you read the whole chapter. Okay, so I'm just going to do this summary for all. So since we already read the whole text, so I don't think we need another reading again. Right. So he right here refers to Jim. I'm just going to scroll up just to okay, so there we have a picture of Jim. Okay, so we know that we're talking about Jim on the other paragraph here, like the other day. See here we have Jim right here. Okay, so that's just a little bit of insight. So yeah, okay, we also have the word Jim right here. I mean the name Jim. Right. So he right here refers to Jim. So here's the summary. So Jim sits down this like on the ground between Huck and Tom. So he refers like the me right here, I mean me refers to Huckleberry Finn. So we're just gonna call him Huck just to shorten this. Okay, so Jim leaned his back against a tree with his legs stretched out, and suddenly right here my nose begins to Huck feels starts feeling an intense itch on his nose, and it's starting to spread throughout his body, which makes it like unbearable. And yeah, unbearable, I can say that it makes Huck feel miserable right here when the word miserableness here. You can say that he feels itchy like in multiple parts. We can say here itching left on different places now. It means that he is itching basically everywhere. So it's just like an exaggeration, just trying to make it more specific on Huck's part. Okay, however, here we can see but I doesn't scratch. I mean, I dare not scratch. It because it just wasn't. I reckon I can stand more longer, but I said my teeth haven't got ready to try. So he thinks that he can't take it anymore, but he still forces himself to stay still. As you can see right here, I doesn't scratch. He didn't dare to scratch this, despite feeling the intense discomfort. He still forced himself to stay still and not scratch any of the itching parts of his body. And just as he thinks he can't take it anymore, I hear he is like pretty determined about his country that he couldn't stand this anymore. He tried to hold back the itch, but when he couldn't stand it anymore, Jim began to breathe heavy. Next, he began to snore. That was really soon comfortable again. And then when Huck thinks he could not stand this whole itching thing anymore, he suddenly heard a heavy breathing and soon after a snore, which actually comes from Jim. And this whole thing happening, the snoring of Jim actually allows Huck to relax and feel comfortable again. So basically, this paragraph is about Huck struggling with his whole eating thing, and he could not scratch this itch. So that's what the paragraph entirely means. So just to shorten this in one sentence, it's about Huck's um complaining about his itch, and that he could not scratch this itch because of probably he was afraid of Jim. I assume he was afraid of Jim. That's why it kind of happened. All right. So I hope that was pretty much clear. So I'm just trying to make sure. Do any of you have any questions before we move on to the second paragraph here? No, no questions, or you want me to like review something? Or you can just ask if I miss something like a vocabulary or I probably need a mistake explaining. You can just point it out. Okay, no, if no, then we can move on to the second paragraph here. I'm just going to highlight this first. Yeah, the gray part right here. So do any of you want to volunteer reading for the second paragraph?
Me.
Okay, Daraka, you can start reading the highlighted paragraph. You can start now.
Tom, he made a sign to me, kind of a little noise with his mouth, and we went creeping away on our hands and knees. But when we was 10 foot off, Tom whispered to me and wanted to tie Jim to the tree for fun. But I said no. He might wake and make a disturbance, and then they'd find out I warned it. Then Tom said he hadn't got candles enough, and he would sleep in the kitchen and got some more. I didn't want him to try. I said Jim might wake up and come, but Tom wanted to rush it. So we slid in there and got 3 candles, and Tom laid 5 cents on the table for pay. Then we got out, and I was in a sweat to get away, but nothing would do. Tom, but he must crawl to where Jim was, on his hands or knees, and play something on him. I waited, and it seemed a good while. Everything was so still and lonesome.
Okay, thank you, Doraka, for reading. Okay, so let's analyze this one by one, like we did for the previous paragraph. Okay, so I'm going to highlight the first sentence here. Tommy made a sign to me, kind of a little noise with his mouth. We were creeping on our hands and knees. Okay, so this is usually used as emphasize. Like Tom, he made a sign to me. So this is like sort of like an emphasize. Like, I kind of understand what the author is trying to imply here, but it's actually a really, and not really though. It's just redundant. You mean that it's kind of like a waste to add the word he right here. You can just say Tom made a sign to me, and the readers would have understand what it means. Just a redundant part right here. And here, kind of a little noise with his mouth. Okay, so in most writing, if you use like formal English writing, the word kind of little right here seems redundant since the words kind of usually indicate something that's little already or small, kind of actually explain that already. But you then add the word little. So it's kind of like redundant. But once again, this is a like normal and it's not really that how do you say it? It's not really that it matters anyway, but it's still kind of like bad to just add kind of a little next to each other. Sounds redundant. And the word here, little, just to make it more like precise in its description, it's supposed to use the word small, like a small noise. Okay, so I'm not really sure how to describe this, but the word little and small, they are pretty synonymous. They have the same, almost the same meaning. I don't say they have the same meaning. They kind of like have similar meanings to it. So the word here, okay, I'm just going to highlight this like kind of like little right here, usually indicates something that is in size, something that is actually tangible. Well, yeah, small is not, yeah. Yeah, pretty like the same thing, but small sounds more precise. So I'm not going to dwell on that. It's really just much like the author's choice anyway. And we went creeping away on our hands and knees. When creeping, okay, is not wrong, so we can move on. And right here, you can say made a sign. Made a sign is usually something like gesture, when people like they don't talk to each other, they communicate through their hands. So this what we said made a sign, like as in like sign languages. So that's made a sign means, like to gesture or give like gift signals. And the word creeping right here doesn't mean creepy, okay? It means like to move slowly and really quiet so that your like movements won't be hurt. So that's what creeping means. Okay, hold on. So let's see the next paragraph. Okay, give me a second. When we was 10 foot off, Tom whispered to me and wanted to tie Jim to the tree for fun. Okay, that was kind of ridiculously funny, not gonna lie. Okay, so we was supposed to be we were. Since okay, so where was I? Mm, yeah, right here. So was here is wrong. Why? Usually the word was right here. Usually used for I was, like he was, she was, it was. So like for he, she, it, and I. When we're talking about plural, for example, like it was here, we are talking about they, and so this is where as usually just for subject. Okay, so it's either we or they. We use were for the verb agreement and not was. So the correct one should be when we were 10 feet off. Okay, let me take this back on. So 10 feet off. So foot right here, if it's just saying 1 foot, it's actually like a singular count. So it's supposed to be feet if it's plural. Since the word we have the word 10 right here, and then we have foot. It's not like they're not agreeing with each other. So it's supposed to be 10 feet. So just in correct singular plural form. When you're talking about one something that's more than one and has the plural form, you need to use the plural form unless they have the same like plural and singular form, that's okay. Tom whispered to me and wanted, so it doesn't really matter. Okay. So this one I can say is already okay. So no further discussion needed for this sentence. Okay, next sentence here. Third sentence. But I said no. He might wake and make a disturbance, and then they find out I weren't in. So wake right here. Yeah, so he might wake. So he might wake up sounds more like precise and doesn't really like confuse the reader, but either way, he might wake. The readers can understand what it means already. So, but to make this sounds more like standard, is supposed to be he might wake up. And warned right here is dialect phrase that the owner like to use. Right here, as you can see, final I want, and it's supposed to be I wasn't in. It's a dialect form, but it technically means the same thing. And right here, disturbance. So disturbance here is like meaning like cause a commotion, like disturbance, something that's like disrupting. Yeah, something disrupting, something that is basically ruin peace. So it's called disturbance or to cause a commotion. All right. I think that's all for that sentence. We're going to move on to the next one. Then Tom said he hadn't got candles enough, and he would slip in the kitchen and get some more. So hadn't got is informal, since it's supposed to say that I didn't have. Okay, so when you're talking about the term of having here, we suppose okay, so hadn't hadn't got any candle. So have had, yeah, it's the same form, but it sounds kind of like really informal. So we're talking about the act of having something. So Tom didn't have the candle. So that's when we use didn't have. It sounds this is the standard English, right? So didn't indicates that it's the past and having why I mean like have right here why we use didn't have. So we know that do usually indicate something a verb, something like to act. Yeah. Like the yeah, like acting. So didn't have. It's like the act of having we're talking about. So that's why we say this didn't have the candles. And didn't, of course, indicate past tense. Enough, and he will slip in the kitchen and get somewhere. So why is this incorrect? This is kind of like incorrect preposition. So you know that slip the word slip can it can mean that slip like as in you almost trip because of something wet. So like I nearly slipped in the kitchen. So it has like a double meaning now. And we're talking about going like into a place, um, as in we're trying to be like sneaky or something like that. So it's supposed to be like slip into the kitchen. So we're talking about going in. So it's supposed to be slip into kitchen. Since we actually named the place, we name it the kitchen. So that's why it's supposed to slip into the kitchen. If like you can just use, so kind of like missing the word to right here. Just slip in. Yeah, it means like sneaking in. I didn't want him to try. Yes, correct. I have no words for that. It's correct and it's pretty obvious and really straightforward. So nothing more to say. I said Jim might wake up and come. Okay, so I don't find any mistakes or like incorrect grammars like the previous sentences for this specific sentence. I said Jim might wake up and come. But given the context that they seems afraid of Jim, I think it needs more context, like might wake up and come after us, like come after, yeah. Jim might wake up and come after us. I think it sounds like gives more clarity to the readers. But other than that, I can say that this is grammatically correct. It just sounds kind of like ambiguous in kind of sense that leads the reader to guess what it actually means. But other than that, it's grammatically correct. So we can just move on to the next sentence. Okay, but Tom wants us to risk it. So rest is I'm not sure it's a okay, so it's supposed to be risk. Like we are not using an E, we're using an I. So risk it. It means like taking a risk. But Tom wanted to risk it. So we slid in there and got 3 candles. And Tom laid 5 cents on the table for pay. So rest it means risk. Slid in there, like I said, the word slid in means like to sneak in. Yes, it means the same thing. They're synonymous. And for pay means as payment. So it's actually informal, but I'm pretty sure if you understand what it means. It's as payment, meaning that some like 5 cents to pay. It means the same thing. Other than that, it's grammatically correct. We all use the same. So this is what we call a parallel sentence. So wanted is the past tense of want, and then slit right here is the same past tense here. And late here means like to lay 5 cents or just like um place 5 cents. So it means the same. So this is a parallel sentence, means that the verb all agree with each other. So okay, let's move on. Let's just cut this right here. It's pretty a long sentence. Okay, supposed to stop like on him, but it's really long, so I'm just going to cut it right here. Then we got out, and I was in a sweat to get away. So was in a sweat is an idiomatic phrase. It means that you're so anxious or nervous about something that you like feels yet you're like all sweaty and stuff. It means I'm anxious. And to get away means to escape. So, and I was in the sweat to get away, mean he was nervous about the thought of like trying to escape. He was really anxious, like, um, will they get caught? Something. So that's why it said was in the sweat to get away. Okay, move on to the next one right here. So we use a semicolon here, and usually the word after semicolon, we do not have to capitalize it, but it does indicate like open sentence. It's you kind of like wanted to end the sentence right there, but then the sentence like the clause next to it actually relates to the clause previous like the previous clause. That's why we're using a semicolon right here. But nothing would do Tom, but he must crawl to where Jim was, on his hands and knees, and play something on him. Nothing would do Tom. It sounds like, yes, like, kind of like a phrasing that most people use like in formal settings, but it actually means that Tom insisted on doing something. So yeah, nothing would do just put a random name. So that actually means like that person is actually being persistent. They're insisting on something. So yeah, it's a phrase. His quote where Jim Wilson has based something on him. So play something on someone, it means like to pull a prank. Or to play pranks means the same thing. Like trying to like yeah, pull a prank, it's the same thing. Nothing would do Thomas Collins. Okay. The other words I can say it's grammatically correct. Last sentence for the day. I waited, and it seemed a good while. Everything was so still and lonesome. So a good while means a long time. It's a phrase as well. And everything was so still and lonesome. So this correctly describe a like sort of a setting, a quiet atmosphere or environment that they were currently at. So lonesome means lonely, like desolate. Yeah, means lonely. For the word alone right here, yeah, it means lonely. And still means like really quiet, just still. I waited some okay, other than that's grammatically correct. Just some informal phrases here and there. Other than that, I can say it's oh and wow. So I'm just going to give you once again a chance in case one of you wanted to share your thoughts or comments for this paragraph right here. I'm just going to give you a minute or two before I summarize the paragraph and we can call it a day. So yeah, I'm going to give you 1 minute from now. Yeah, you can just type in the chat box if you wanted to. Okay, none of you wanted to add the comments. Okay, I'm just going to give a summary here. So a really short one. So basically, we know that from the previous paragraph that Jim snoring he fall asleep. Okay, so Tom signals Huck from the way he made a sign. So they were like giving signs to each other, and they sneak away on their hands and knees, like they creep on their hands and knees, meaning they're like trying to sneak away, not sneak in, they sneak away. So when we there were at 10 foot off, I'm not sure if that's like a really long or close distance. I'm not really sure about that. Tom suddenly had this idea, like that's why he whispered to Huck about wanting to tie Jim to a tree as a prank. So that's what it means. So Tom whispered to Huck when he had this crazy idea about, hey, why don't we just tie Jim to a tree just for fun? And we're gonna want to see what happens. That's what it means. And but Huck refuses. We can see that. But I said no, meaning that Huck refused this crazy idea of Tom. Because why? Huck was worried that Jim might wake up and expose that he was absent, meaning that Huck wasn't at home. Like Tom, he didn't have to worry about that, but Huckleberry has to worry about that because he lives with the widow and he just knocked out of home. He was worried that Jim might be a snitch and sell the widow on him. So that's why he decided not to do this prank. Tom then realizes he needs more candles and insists on sneaking into the kitchen to take some, despite Huck's reluctance, like despite Huck not agreeing to it. I'm not sure why Tom wanted the candles though, but that's what it means. It's okay. So yeah, Huck was afraid. So after grabbing three candles and leaving 5 cents as payment. Okay, so s- I mean, like practically took three candles, I assume, from the kitchen, and then they left 5 cents there, as a form of payment. They exit. I mean, yeah, they exit like they said it right. They got out. Yeah, they exited the kitchen, but Tom refuses to leave without crawling back to Jim and pull a prank on him. Like basically they got out and Huckleberry was basically relieved. He was so anxious about escaping, but then some still keep on insisting Huck that he wanted to pull a prank on Jim. Well, Huck waited in the end, and it feels like a really long time. Yeah, he waits in this like really silent and lonely night. I'm not sure like lonely here fits, but it added the word lonely there. Basically, Tom wanted to pull a prank on Jim, but Huck still refuses though. He sticks to his guns, meaning that he was trying to pull a prank so far on Jim. Tom did it, and Huck was definitely trying to play safe, since that's why he just waited outside and decided not to pull a prank. So it's really like more of a cautious side, while Tom is more like an adventurous kind of child. So yeah. So basically, this whole summary means they try to sneak out. Tom wanted to pull a prank on Jim. Huck disagrees because he was pretty anxious about everything since living with the widow. But Tom still insisting that he wants to pull a prank on Jim. Therefore, Huck just waited outside, hoping for the best. Okay, I think that's all for the summary. Do you have any questions so far for the two paragraphs that we have discussed? Discussed. Sorry, have discussed so far. Do any of you wanted to ask me something?
No.
Okay, so no questions. So if no questions, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen and I'm going to stop record as well. Give me a second.